Hey you guys, it's me Laura. I'm a homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 4, 9, and 11, and today I am taking part in a collab hosted by Katie over at Life in the Mundane, where we are going to be sharing with you our read alouds from this past school year and let you know which ones we liked, which ones we didn't, and which ones kind of fell in between. Now, one thing that I have to say, if you're new to my channel, we are a literature-based homeschool. We do tons of reading. So the books that I'm sharing with you are not all the books that we've read together. They're not the books that I've read one-on-one with each child, and I'm not including our audiobooks just because if I included all of our read-alouds, it would be way too long for one video. So these are the primary read-alouds that we read that went with our curriculum. We do a unit study-based curriculum. Each unit study usually has one read aloud that we focus on for that unit study. So those are the ones that I've included here with one exception, and that is Zoe and Sassafras, and we just kind of sprinkle those in all throughout, but I had to include them. Before I get started, I did go ahead and have my kids rank their top 3 books and their number 1 didn't like it book, and as we get to them I will share that with you, but I'm going to share them in the order that we read them this year. So our first book is actually a set of 4 books. It is the Fizz the Police Dog books. These were from Usborne Books and More, I believe. I don't know if they're still selling them or not, but if they are, I will link them below, as well as all of these books. This is actually 4 books in a series, but we read it as one read aloud. I was very hesitant to read this. I was struggling with finding a read aloud for this particular unit, and these are kind of early chapter books, and so I wanted to read something a little more challenging as a read aloud, but the kids loved this. We had lots of good conversations about these books, and we built a lot of memories around them, and they kind of broke down some of that wall for me to let me know that sometimes that books don't have to be super hard or super literary or super impressive to have a good time. And so sometimes having some of these fun books is good. We learn lots of great vocabulary from these books, and they are about this little dog Fizz who wants to be a police dog, but he's not the right kind of dog. And so the first book is about his tryouts, and the next 3 books are about all his adventures after his tryouts and what happens. So I highly recommend these books. These would be great for independent readers if you wanted to use them that way. But even my 4-year-old really enjoyed listening to these. That's one of the great things about some of these books too. So all of my kids enjoyed these books, and Timothy rated these his number 3 pick for the whole year. The next books that I want to talk to you about are Zoe and Sassafras. We're still kind of slowly working our way through a series, but if we have a lull or need a break or are taking time off of school and need something to read, these are our go-to books. They are about Zoe and her cat Sassafras, and they have all these magical creatures that they come in contact with that have different needs, and Zoe is trying to help them out. And each one of them explores a different scientific concept. This one talks about the scientific method, and this one talks about mold and growth, and this one talks about ecology and conservation. And there's several books in the series, and they are loads of fun. Again, these are ones that are earlier chapter books, but they're super interactive, and all of my kids really love to listen to these, and you could totally build a full science curriculum off of these books. And if you go to the Zoe and Sassafras website, there's lots of free printables and all sorts of stuff if you want that as well. But these are super great read alouds. Our next read aloud was Dog Diaries Sparky, and this was set during the Great Chicago Fire in the 1800s. And this is told from the perspective of Sparky, who is a fire dog. And there's also a horse diaries that corresponds with this from the point of view of the horse. I honestly thought, that one's called Cinders. And I honestly thought that this was okay. I wasn't a huge fan. The kids seemed to enjoy it. When I talked to them about it, they seemed to talk highly of it. So I think they did enjoy it. It wasn't anything particularly wrong. I just didn't feel like it was an amazing book that really stands out to me. But I think if you have a child who likes dogs or is interested in this series, this is probably a good one. This again is one that is more advanced than the other 2, but definitely intended to, I would say, be on about a 4th grade reading level. But it was one that they enjoyed. So this was one that I would say that the kids enjoyed. I was kind of ambivalent about, but it wasn't one of our favorites. The next book I'm going to show you got the least favorite, so the least favorite of all the books, rating from both of the boys. And that is Thomas Edison, Inspiration and Hard Work, Heroes of History. Now with this book, I think that for my 9-year-old, who was 8 when we read all this stuff, and my 4-year-old, who was 3 for some of the time, 4 for some of the time, this was just too heavy. My 11-year-old said that he enjoyed it, but it was kind of boring, and that he prefers to listen to these kinds of books on audiobook rather than as a family read aloud. And I would say that's true, because my other child loves a few of these that he listens to over and over again on audiobook. So this was not a favorite for our home, and I would say that for us, we'll probably stick to these on audio if we use them again, and not use them as our primary read aloud, because they are just a little bit slower and a little bit dry. But definitely the content of this certainly appealed more to my oldest child as well. He loves science and all things science, and my other kids could give, leave it, take it, whatever. They're more history. So that was what we had going on with this. Our next book was Robin Hood. We had 2 read alouds for our Middle Ages unit study. This one is so funny because my middle child was super interested in this when we had it, and he really loved it, but he doesn't remember reading it anymore at all, which I find very interesting. I felt like this was probably better suited to ages 10 and up. There are some graphics in here that are a little bit much for younger kids, but it's a great retelling of Robin Hood. I actually really enjoyed this one a lot. But yeah, that was kind of that one there. And the other read aloud that we did for that was Castle Diary, the Journal of Tobias Burgess. I had actually read this before, and it's okay. It doesn't work as well as a read aloud. I think it is much better suited for an independent reader just because of the way that it's written. It is written in the diary format, and I just find that whenever I try to read that type of format out loud to my kids, it hasn't worked with really any books, even some that are super good. I just find that those are better for independent read. Now, if you are doing a Middle Ages unit study, a series that I highly recommend is the Roll and Write. It's a trilogy, and I will be sure to link that below so that you can see, but we've really enjoyed that as a read aloud in the past. So yeah, that's what I recommend in place of this. This next book I absolutely love, and this is when we started getting into literature-based unit studies that I worked really hard to put together and was really curating the books for. And this one was the number 2 pick from my oldest, and it is Song for a Whale by Lynn Kelly. This is the story of Iris, who's a deaf girl who goes to a hearing school and is surrounded by hearing people, and she feels kind of alone. And she discovers this whale that sings at a different frequency from all the other whales, and she feels, of course, a great connection to this whale. And this is her story about how she tries to help the whale. There's lots of science in this book, there's lots of nature in this book. This is just a fantastic book. There's poetry, so many good things. And if you are interested, I do have some free resources on my website that go along with this book, and I'll be sure to link all of that below, that you can print out and use and kind of put together a unit study for this book. We thoroughly enjoyed it. The number 2 pick for my 8-year-old and number 3 pick for my 11-year-old is Boy in the Back of the Class by Anjali Q. Rauf, and I'm sure that I slaughtered that. But this is the story of 4 classmates who all of a sudden end up with a quiet boy in the back of their class, and it's their journey to discover why he's there, what he's doing there, why is he so quiet, what's his background. And it turns out that he's a refugee, so they learn a little bit more about the refugee experience through the story. It is super sweet. This is really good for kids of all ages, and we absolutely loved this story, and it's a really great story to help with empathy and just to really start thinking about things from other perspectives. So we really enjoyed this one. We did this with our immigration unit study, so that's what we really enjoyed that one. And this last one is the number 1 pick probably for the entire family. It's the last one that we did. I did a complete literature-based unit study on this. I was so excited. I don't have any of the resources online. I did create a literature pack for my 11-year-old with copywork and spelling and all of that. It is completely unedited, and there are definitely errors in there, but if you would like it, let me know in the comments below, and I can share that on my blog as well. I just haven't made time to do that. But if you want the unedited version and to use it as it is, just let me know and I can try and get that up. But that #1 book for the year is Braver, A Wombat's Tale. And this is such a good story. This is one of those classics that you can read over and over again. We had the book and we did some activities out of the book, but we also did do this one with audio because the narrator has the Australian accent, which I think just adds so much to the story. But this is a fantasy set on the island of Tasmania in Australia, so you get to meet all sorts of really fun Australian animals. But Lola is a wombat. Wombats are quiet, peaceful creatures, but Lola doesn't quite fit in, and she likes to talk a lot. But one day, all of the wombats in her village are captured by a Tasmanian devil. They call it a Tassie devil in the book, and are taken off, and Lola is on a quest to rescue them. She is going to the city of Dor to find the queen so that she can have all of the wombats freed, but she runs into a lot of challenges along the way. This is a great story that is full of adventure and character building and story writing and the importance of stories, and this has just got so many wonderful layers to it, and it is a fantastic book that I highly recommend. The whole family enjoyed it. We all still quote from the book and have lots of fun memories around this one, and it's for sure a great read. So those are all the read alouds that we have for this school year as far as our main read alouds are concerned. And if you're looking for read alouds for the year, definitely check out some of these books, and be sure to check out all of the other videos in this collab, because there are going to be some great books for all different ages, and hopefully you can find some to add to your list to read aloud with your kids this school year. And if you have any questions for me, be sure to let me know, and I will talk to you later. Bye.